Could it really be easy to paint a rose like this? Let's see if we can paint this stunning rose with 2 dagger brushes, a 1/4-inch dagger striper and a 1/2-inch dagger. We'll paint it wet in wet to achieve the softness. I'm brushing clean water all over the front and the back of the paper. This gives you extra working time and the paper stays beautifully flat on your board without any taping at all. My paper is still very shiny and I'm coming into the center with some raw Umber Violet Quinacridone Rose, which I've mellowed with some buff titanium. So look, I'm just laying it on really thick. Now I'm washing my brush, just tapping out the excess because there's plenty of water around. And now I'm just going to pull this out wherever it wants to go. Just like that. And even softening the edges a little. And now I'm just going to wait for a little bit of that to soak into the paper. And then my next step will be to use a 1/4-inch dagger and have tissues or a paper towel in my hand ready to do some lifting. So it's still way too shiny at the moment. Just going to wait another minute, that's all. The paper is becoming far more satin now and the main gloss has disappeared. So I've washed my brush and I'm wiping it dry and even squeezing the water out with my fingers. Now I'm going to make a little mark in there. It didn't work because it's still a bit wet, so I have to do it again. Just like that. Again, wash my brush, squeezed out the excess. Now for a little T. Come over the top of the first line with a bit of a T line. And now going to make a bit of an open triangle, but come across this one. And now across these two. You don't have to do it exactly like this, but the moral to the story here is we're spinning around because that's exactly what the rose does as it unfolds its petals in a spiral motion. Coming on the inside of it, and I can turn my paper so it's easier to lift out. I'm starting on the inside of my previous fold, just in there. I've done a little circle of petals right in the very center. I've done this one, and now I'll do just one more. So I start on the inside. There's a nice big gap. I'll start on the inside and come out. My petal is a little bit bigger now. See that nice big gap I have? Squeeze the water out, come into this gap, and make another fold. And there's the gap. I know I tend to repeat myself, but somehow I believe that if you hear the gap, and come around a few times, that does sink in. And when you're lost, you'll just hear those words. There's the gap, and I'm coming around like this. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Now with my 1/4-inch dagger that I have washed and tapped out the water, I'm going to pick up some of this Quinacridone Rose, which has a little bit of the raw Umber Violet in it, and it's only on the tip. What we have here is the white is the fold of the petal, but each fold of a petal also has a little bit of shadow where it folds down. So I'm actually going to leave a little bit of that showing and come down underneath it. See that? I didn't have enough paint on my brush and I have a dry brush mark even though the paper's very damp. I have to make sure my brush is wet. It's really, really important, and to have the paint only on the tip. Now on the inside again, there's thin and thicker, and thin and thicker. And now that we've come this far, I don't want to do too many petals, so I'm going to use my big brush. But before we do that, let's have a look at some of the brush strokes that are really handy to master with roses and other flowers too. I'm carefully mixing my puddle of paint, always adding only a little of the pigment to the water and turning my brush over and over again, always maintaining my straight sword edge. When I use the point and sharp sword edge of the brush, I can achieve a really thin line. If I use the whole sword, I can get a really thick line. And of course, with the thin line, I'm not using much pressure at all. And with the sword, the more pressure I use, the thicker the line will be. Now I'm lifting the brush a bit and coming out. So for a rose, if we start with no pressure to make a little thin line like this, and then increase the pressure to make a nice thick line, and then release the pressure again to make a nice thin line. That's what we're doing. So this is what you need to practice: a thin line, pressure down, release, and make it thin again. And you can make this straight like this, or you can wiggle it around. The options are endless. And this applies to the small dagger brush as well as to the 1/2-inch dagger brush. They're both the same. There we go. I've wet it, tapped it, and picking up some of this same color on the very tip. And now coming in, making a bigger petal. Now remember, the petals need to face the center or the base of the bud. And so the next petal is going to be like that. And see how it already looks like a rose. To better understand how a rose is put together, check out this video here. Now I can point this one to the base of the petal and start the new petal in there and point this one to the base. That was my row of bigger petals, but now I'm going to do the actual outside petals. Again, it's the same thing, and I've got some juicy paint on here. I'm going to make one of those petals where the petal on the outside, it's a little bit ripped and then it bends over to two sides. And there it is folding over. That petal is facing in there. For the next petal, it'll be one of those where you actually see the fold going under, and there'll be a shadow under there. And now on this side, do it a bit different again. And it'll come out first and then go around. And again, the side of it will face the center of the bud. And now for the last one, I'm going to make it a bit similar to this one. And I'm in there. And we'll leave this to dry, and then we'll come back and just put in anything we have to put in. My rose is very dry now, and I'm thinking I could easily leave it as it is, painted in one layer, wet on wet, and then on damp. But I'm going to fiddle just a little and add some more shadows here and there, not too many. So let's recap. Firstly, I wet the paper on both sides. This took all the stress away from brushing too much. After laying in the rich center, I allowed it to bleed out with a bit of help, and then as the paper developed a satin sheen, I started to lift out the center petals in a spiral movement. Remember to always clean and dry your brush. Every time you lift, clean off the excess paint. The cleaner the brush, the cleaner the lift. And then a round of petals with the 1/4-inch dagger, and a round of larger ones with the 1/2-inch dagger, and finally the outside petals. The effect of the outside petals was achieved with the paint only on the very tip of a wet brush. It may take a bit of practice, but it's well and truly worth it. If you'd like to brush up on your petals, check out this video here. Join me next time when we take a deeper dive into painting on damp paper. It really is a game changer.